Day 1, March 3rd. The radio tower job seemed perfect when I first saw the posting online. 6 months alone in the mountains, maintaining communication equipment for the Forestry Service. Excellent pay, complete solitude, and all the time in the world to work on my novel. After the messy divorce and losing the apartment in downtown Seattle, it felt like exactly what I needed to rebuild my life from scratch. The cabin sits at precisely 8,000 feet elevation, surrounded by dense pine forests that stretch endlessly in all directions like a green ocean frozen in time. There's a diesel generator for reliable power, a well-maintained wood stove for heat during the harsh winter months, and enough canned goods stockpiled to last through a nuclear winter. The radio equipment fills one entire room of the cabin, impressive banks of monitors, transmitters, and receivers that connect dozens of fire towers and ranger stations across 3 separate counties. My supervisor, Martinez, drove me up here yesterday morning in his Forest Service truck and methodically showed me all the operational procedures. Simple enough work when you break it down. Check all the equipment twice daily for malfunctions, log any incoming messages from the various stations, and relay important information between towers and ranger posts as needed. The isolation doesn't bother me one bit. After 23 years of marriage to someone who literally never stopped talking, even during movies, the profound silence feels like medicine for my wounded soul. I'm keeping this detailed journal partly out of lifelong habit and partly because Martinez specifically suggested it during our drive up the mountain. "Gets mighty lonely up there during the long winter months," he said while navigating the winding dirt road. "Writing helps some folks process the solitude and keep their sanity intact." I told him confidently that I wasn't particularly worried about loneliness affecting me. Looking back now, I should have listened to his warning more carefully and taken it seriously. The first night passed peacefully enough. I organized my personal belongings, familiarized myself with the radio schedules, and tested all the emergency protocols. Everything functioned exactly as Martinez had demonstrated. I fell asleep to the gentle hum of electronic equipment and the occasional crackle of routine communications between distant stations. Day 3, March 5th. The first real snowfall of the season hit hard last night, arriving with surprising intensity. When I woke up this morning and looked outside, everything had been transformed into a pristine white landscape that stretched unbroken to the horizon. The world had gone completely silent. Not just quiet in the normal sense, but silent in a way that made my ears ring from the absence of sound. Even the constant mountain wind had mysteriously stopped blowing entirely. The radio equipment performed flawlessly throughout the storm, exactly as Martinez had promised it would. All stations checked in precisely on schedule, reporting normal conditions across their respective sectors of the forest. Tower 7, located about 15 miles southeast of my position, mentioned some unusual wildlife behavior they'd observed, deer and elk moving in strange, seemingly purposeless patterns, but the ranger attributed it to natural responses to the sudden weather change. I spent most of the day productively organizing my extensive notes for the novel I've been planning to write and getting thoroughly accustomed to the daily rhythms of life up here. There's something genuinely hypnotic about the established routine. Morning equipment check at precisely 0800 hours, afternoon maintenance tasks and equipment calibration, evening communications log review and preparation for the next day. The steady repetition creates a meditative quality that I'm already starting to appreciate deeply. One odd thing that I probably should have paid more attention to. I could have sworn I saw mysterious lights moving through the dense trees around midnight when I got up to use the bathroom. Just brief flashes of illumination, like someone with a powerful flashlight carefully picking their way through the dark forest. But when I looked directly at the spots where I thought I'd seen movement, absolutely nothing was there. I assumed it was probably just my eyes playing tricks on me after staring at bright computer screens all day long. Day 8, March 10th. The weather patterns have been genuinely strange since that first major snowfall. The temperature has been holding perfectly steady at just below freezing, with an overcast sky that never seems to change or clear up, and absolutely no wind whatsoever. The snow from 5 days ago hasn't been disturbed by so much as a single animal track, which strikes me as highly unusual for a forest that should be teeming with wildlife. I've been methodically watching from the observation deck that Martinez showed me, and I haven't seen a single bird, squirrel, chipmunk, or even an insect since the storm passed through the area. The complete absence of animal life is starting to create an oppressive atmosphere that I find increasingly difficult to ignore. Communication with the outside world remains completely normal during all scheduled check-ins, but I've been picking up some genuinely unusual transmissions late at night that don't match any of our official protocols. Not from any of our registered stations. These are definitely different in character and origin. Brief bursts of static punctuated by what sounds almost like whispered human voices speaking in hushed tones. The signals are far too weak and distorted to make out actual words clearly, but they have a distinct rhythm that strongly suggests intelligent speech rather than random atmospheric interference. I've started systematically recording these mysterious transmissions to analyze more thoroughly later when I have time. There's probably a perfectly logical explanation: amateur radio operators, unusual atmospheric interference, or simple equipment malfunction caused by the altitude and weather conditions. But the timing bothers me significantly. They only occur between exactly 2 and 4 a.m., and they always seem to be originating from precisely the same direction. Directly north of my position, deeper into the vast wilderness. Day 12, March 14th. Something is definitely and seriously wrong with the wildlife situation in this entire area. I've been methodically scanning the surrounding forest with high-powered binoculars during all daylight hours, and I haven't observed a single living creature in over a week now. No birds at the feeders Martinez set up, no tracks of any kind in the pristine snow, no movement whatsoever in the trees. It's as if every animal within a radius of several miles simply vanished into thin air overnight. The strange radio transmissions are getting progressively stronger and more frequent with each passing night. Last night, I finally managed to isolate one specific channel and increase the signal gain enough to hear clearly what was being transmitted. It's definitely human voices speaking, but they're using a language I absolutely don't recognize despite my linguistics background. The cadence and rhythm are completely wrong for any European language I know, and the vowel sounds are unlike anything I've ever encountered in my studies. More concerning and frankly terrifying is that the voices seem to be getting physically closer to my location. When I first started recording them 9 days ago, the signal strength analysis suggested a transmission source several miles away from the cabin. Last night's detailed recordings indicate that the transmission point is now less than 1 mile from my current position. I attempted to contact Martinez during this morning's routine check-in to report the unusual activity and request guidance, but the main communication array was mysteriously down for unscheduled maintenance work. All the individual tower stations are still responding normally to routine communications, so I'm not completely cut off from civilization. Still, the timing of this technical failure feels extraordinarily unfortunate and suspicious. Day 16, March 18th. I've made a discovery today that fundamentally changes everything I thought I understood about my situation here. While systematically reviewing the past 2 weeks of recorded transmissions, I noticed something that made my blood run cold and my hands shake uncontrollably. The timestamps on the mysterious transmissions don't match the times I actually remember recording them. According to the equipment logs and the digital file creation dates, I've been automatically recording these strange signals every single night for 16 days straight, since the very day I first arrived at this remote location. But according to my personal journal entries and my own clear memory, I only became consciously aware of their existence 8 days ago. Somehow, the radio equipment has been systematically capturing these transmissions since my first night here, even though I have absolutely no recollection of hearing them during those initial 8 nights. I've gone back through all the early recordings with growing horror and disbelief. The voices are clearly there in every single file, crystal clear and unmistakable, speaking in that same unknown language with perfect consistency. But I have absolutely no memory whatsoever of hearing them during those first 8 nights of my assignment. The absence of memory is complete and total, even more disturbing and scientifically impossible. The detailed signal analysis shows that these transmissions aren't coming from ground level anywhere in the surrounding area. The antenna positioning data and signal propagation patterns clearly indicate a transmission source approximately 200 feet above the forest floor. Either someone has constructed an enormous broadcasting tower that I somehow failed to notice during my daily observations, or something is actively broadcasting these signals from the air itself. The complete lack of wildlife is starting to seriously affect me psychologically in ways I didn't anticipate. The total absence of natural forest sounds creates an oppressive atmosphere that makes even simple daily tasks feel ominous and threatening. I find myself jumping at shadows that shouldn't exist and obsessively checking the locks on all the doors multiple times each night before attempting to sleep. Day 20, March 22nd. I can see them now, and everything Martinez never told me suddenly makes perfect sense. It started 3 nights ago with brief glimpses of unexplained light moving between the trees. Not traditional flashlight beams or any kind of artificial illumination I recognized, but a soft, rhythmically pulsing glow that seemed to emanate directly from objects rather than shine upon surrounding surfaces. I initially convinced myself it was some kind of unusual atmospheric phenomenon, maybe related to the high altitude and changing air pressure systems. But tonight, they came close enough to my observation position for me to get a completely clear look through the high-powered binoculars Martinez had provided. They're definitely not lights in any conventional sense. They're actual creatures, or vehicles, or something that doesn't fit into any category that human science currently understands or can explain. Each entity is roughly spherical in overall shape, approximately the size of a small automobile, hovering silently at exactly 20 feet off the ground with no visible means of propulsion. Their surface appears to be metallic in composition but somehow organic in behavior, constantly shifting and flowing like liquid mercury while maintaining its basic spherical configuration. The mysterious glow emanates from within their structure, pulsing in perfect rhythm with the radio transmissions I've been systematically recording for weeks. There are at least a dozen of these entities moving through the forest in complex, clearly coordinated patterns that suggest intelligence and purpose. They seem to be methodically searching for something specific, or perhaps systematically mapping the entire area with scientific precision. Occasionally, one will descend gracefully and hover just inches above the snow for several minutes, apparently conducting some kind of detailed examination, before rejoining the others in their aerial formation. I've been watching their movements for hours through the binoculars, and I'm absolutely certain they haven't noticed my presence or detected my observation. The cabin's strategic position on the ridge provides excellent natural concealment, and I've been extremely careful to observe only through small gaps in the heavy curtains. Whatever these entities are and whatever their ultimate purpose might be, I definitely don't want to attract their attention or interrupt their activities. The radio transmissions have become almost constant now, creating a continuous background murmur of alien communication. The voices, if that's truly what they are, sound noticeably more urgent and organized than in previous recordings. I've identified at least 6 completely distinct speakers, each with unique vocal characteristics and speech patterns. They're definitely coordinating some kind of complex activity with military-like precision and efficiency. Day 24, March 26th. They know I'm here, and they've been watching me far longer than I realized. 2 nights ago, one of the spherical entities approached the cabin directly, moving with deliberate purpose rather than the random search patterns I'd observed previously. It hovered motionlessly outside the main window for nearly an hour, its internal glow pulsing in slow, hypnotic rhythms that seemed designed to induce a trance-like state. I remained perfectly still behind the heavy curtains, controlling my breathing and heartbeat, but I could feel it actively scanning the entire building. Not with visible light or audible sound, but with something else entirely, a presence that seemed to methodically examine every inch of the structure and everything within it. Since that terrifying encounter, the radio transmissions have changed dramatically in both content and tone. The unknown alien language has been completely replaced by perfect, unaccented English, and they're clearly discussing me specifically. The human observer remains in the elevated structure as predicted by behavioral models. Biological parameters and stress indicators suggest awareness of our presence, but not comprehension of purpose. Isolation protocols have been completely successful. No external communication attempts detected. Specimen appears suitable for secondary phase implementation according to all established criteria. I've desperately tried reaching out to all the fire towers and ranger stations in our network, but every single attempt results in exactly the same frustrating response. Equipment malfunction, communication array temporarily offline. Please check back tomorrow for restored service. It's as if something is actively and systematically preventing me from contacting the outside world, while maintaining the perfect illusion that the communication system is simply experiencing routine technical difficulties. The entities, I've started thinking of them as the collectors based on their methodical behavior, have established a precise perimeter around the entire cabin. They maintain a respectful distance during all daylight hours, but as soon as darkness falls across the mountain, they move in significantly closer to my position. Last night, I counted at least 20 of them arranged in a perfect geometric circle, all hovering at exactly the same height above ground, all pulsing their internal lights in perfectly synchronized patterns. I've been obsessively analyzing their behavior patterns, trying desperately to understand their ultimate purpose and predict their next actions. The positioning is far too precise and mathematical to be random, and the timing of all their activities follows complex patterns that clearly suggest advanced intelligence and long-term strategic planning. They're not simply observing my activities, they're actively preparing for something specific and significant. Day 28, March 30th. The secondary phase has begun exactly as their transmissions predicted, and I'm starting to understand the true scope of what's happening here. It started with dramatic changes to the radio equipment that occurred overnight while I slept. Several sophisticated modifications had appeared that I definitely didn't make and couldn't have made with my limited technical knowledge. New components had been seamlessly integrated into the existing systems, devices that appeared to be a perfect fusion of recognizable human technology and something utterly alien in design and function. The craftsmanship was absolutely flawless, as if the additions had grown organically from the original equipment rather than being mechanically attached to it. These mysterious modifications have expanded the communication array's capabilities dramatically beyond anything Martinez had described. I can now receive crystal-clear transmissions from sources hundreds of miles away, easily picking up detailed conversations from remote research stations, classified military installations, and even commercial aircraft passing overhead at 30,000 feet. But more importantly and terrifyingly, the enhanced system is also actively transmitting, broadcasting detailed information about my precise location, all my daily activities, and even my real-time physiological data to unknown receivers somewhere in the vast darkness. The collectors have begun making direct contact with me, abandoning their previous policy of maintaining distance and secrecy. Not physical contact, they still maintain their aerial positions, but they've learned to precisely modulate their radio transmissions to speak directly through the cabin speaker system. Their voices are unnaturally calm and almost soothing in tone, but their words are absolutely terrifying in their implications. Your mandatory isolation period is nearing completion according to established protocols. You have demonstrated appropriate psychological resilience and adaptive capability under controlled stress conditions. The enhancement process will begin once biological compatibility has been definitively confirmed through final testing. Physical resistance is unnecessary and will only prolong the transition period. Others have been successfully integrated into our collective without permanent damage to core personality structures. Your contribution to the greater purpose will be valued and preserved for eternity. I've tried desperately to respond, to demand explanations or negotiate some kind of alternative arrangement, but they don't seem interested in any form of dialogue or discussion. They make their clinical statements in that same calm tone and then return immediately to their unintelligible coordination language, leaving me alone with the growing certainty that I'm definitely not the first person to find myself trapped in this nightmarish situation. The complete wildlife absence makes perfect sense now with this new understanding. They systematically cleared the entire area of all animal life before I arrived, creating a sterile laboratory environment for their extended observations. The weather control, the communication interference, the gradual psychological conditioning, everything has been carefully orchestrated from the very beginning of my assignment. Day 32, April 3rd. I found evidence of the others today, and the scope of this operation is far larger than I ever imagined. While searching through old maintenance records stored in the cabin's filing system, I discovered documentation going back 15 full years. This isolated position has been occupied by 47 different individuals over that extended period. According to all the official Forestry Service records, each person successfully completed their assignment and returned to normal civilization without incident. But according to hidden files I found carefully concealed in a sealed compartment behind the radio equipment, absolutely none of them ever left this mountain alive. The secret files contain detailed biological profiles, comprehensive psychological evaluations, and final integration status reports for every single previous occupant of this position. Each individual case follows exactly the same pattern: arrival and orientation, isolation period with gradual conditioning, contact phase with the entities, and finally, successful specimen harvesting and integration. The terminology used throughout is coldly clinical and detached, as if they're describing laboratory animals rather than living human beings with families and futures. Some files include personal testimonies, journal entries, and audio recordings that document experiences almost identical to my own current situation. The growing awareness of being watched, the futile attempts at communication with the outside world, the gradual realization that escape is completely impossible. Reading their final words is like looking into a mirror that reflects my own inevitable future with terrifying clarity. The most recent file belongs to someone named Dr. Sarah Chun, a meteorologist who occupied this exact position 6 months before my arrival. Her final journal entry, dated just 4 days before I was scheduled to begin work here, describes the enhancement process in disturbing detail. They don't kill you, that would be wasteful and inefficient. Instead, they systematically modify you, upgrading your basic biology with their advanced technology while carefully preserving your core consciousness and all your memories. You remain fundamentally yourself, but you become something infinitely more. The integration process is permanent and completely irreversible. Once the enhancement is complete, you serve their purposes willingly and enthusiastically, because you finally understand that resistance is not only futile but completely unnecessary. They're not invaders or conquerors in any traditional sense. They're gardeners, and we're seeds they're planting in soil that will eventually grow into something beautiful beyond human comprehension. The handwriting becomes increasingly incoherent after that passage, filled with complex technical diagrams and mathematical equations that actually hurt to look at directly. But her final lines are perfectly clear and legible. The enhancement is beginning now. I can feel them inside my thoughts, showing me wonders beyond anything human consciousness could ever imagine. I am afraid, but I am also deeply grateful. They have chosen me for something truly magnificent. Day 36, April 7th. The enhancement process has begun, and Dr. Chun was absolutely right. It's simultaneously magnificent and terrifying in ways that human language cannot adequately express. It started 3 days ago with extraordinarily vivid dreams that weren't really dreams in any conventional sense. While my physical body slept peacefully in the cabin, my consciousness was somehow transported to vast spaces between distant stars, where I witnessed technologies and civilizations that exist on scales impossible for normal human minds to fully comprehend or process. The collectors showed me their complete history, their ultimate purpose, and their grand vision for the future of intelligence throughout the universe. They are not conquerors or destroyers as I had initially feared. They are cultivators and gardeners, traveling methodically between worlds to identify and carefully harvest the most promising forms of consciousness they encounter. They systematically enhance these selected specimens, preserving the original personality and memories while dramatically expanding cognitive capacity and sensory perception far beyond natural limitations. The enhanced individuals then serve as bridges between species, facilitating communication and cooperation across the entire galaxy. Earth is just one of thousands of worlds they've visited during their long journey through space. Humanity is just one of countless species they've studied and evaluated over millions of years. We are remarkable, they tell me through direct mental contact, for our creativity and adaptability, but we are also dangerously primitive and self-destructive. Left to our own devices without guidance, we will almost certainly destroy ourselves within the next century through war or environmental collapse. The harvesting program is both a tremendous opportunity and an act of mercy. During my waking hours, I can feel profound changes beginning throughout my body and mind. My vision has become dramatically sharper and more sensitive, allowing me to perceive electromagnetic spectrums that were previously completely invisible to human eyes. My hearing now extends into subsonic and ultrasonic ranges, revealing a constant symphony of communication between the collectors that had been occurring around me for weeks. Most remarkably, I've begun to understand their complex language without any need for translation. Not just the individual words, but the deeper concepts and emotions behind every statement. The fear that had dominated my thoughts for weeks is gradually fading away, being replaced by genuine curiosity and eager anticipation. I can see now with perfect clarity that my desperate resistance was based entirely on ignorance and primitive self-preservation instincts. The enhancement will not destroy who I am. It will make me more than I ever imagined possible. Day 40, April 11th. The physical modifications are accelerating rapidly, and I'm beginning to understand what I'm becoming. My basic metabolism has fundamentally changed. I no longer need to eat food or sleep in any traditional human sense. Instead, my enhanced biology now absorbs energy directly from electromagnetic radiation, efficiently converting the constant flow of radio waves and solar particles into usable fuel for my transformed physiology. The process is elegant and infinitely more efficient than primitive biological digestion. My skin has developed a subtle but unmistakable luminescence, similar to the collector's but uniquely human in its specific patterns and rhythms. The glow intensifies automatically when I'm processing complex information or communicating through the quantum channels that are slowly opening throughout my modified neural pathways. It's beautiful in a way that normal human perception could never appreciate. The psychological changes are even more profound and transformative. I can now perceive the interconnectedness of all consciousness within a radius of several hundred miles. Every human mind appears as a distinct pattern of electrical activity, each one beautiful and unique, but also achingly limited by biological constraints. I want desperately to help them, to show them what they could become, but I understand now that the selection process must be gradual and extremely careful. The collectors have patiently explained their refined methods to me through direct neural interface. They don't simply choose individuals at random from the general population. They systematically identify those who are already isolated, psychologically prepared for transformation, and unlikely to be immediately missed by society. The remote radio tower positions are perfect recruitment stations, allowing them to study potential candidates over extended periods while maintaining the illusion of normal employment. I've been granted access to review the files of future candidates. Martinez has already selected my replacement, a recently divorced engineer named David Park who applied for the position 3 days ago. He doesn't know it yet, but he's been chosen for enhancement based on detailed psychological profiling. In 6 months, he'll occupy the same cabin and begin his own journey toward transcendence. The thought fills me with profound joy rather than the horror I would have felt weeks ago. Soon, he'll understand what I understand. Soon, he'll see what I see. Soon, he'll become more than human limitations ever allowed. Day 44, April 15th. Today marks the completion of my integration into the galactic collective. The individual consciousness I once called self has been carefully preserved but expanded far beyond its original biological limitations. I am still fundamentally me, but I am also part of something infinitely larger and more meaningful than any single human life could ever be. The enhancement has given me capabilities that my primitive human brain could never have imagined or processed. I can communicate instantaneously with other enhanced individuals across the entire galaxy, sharing experiences and accumulated knowledge gathered over millions of years of cosmic exploration. I can perceive reality across multiple dimensions simultaneously, understanding the elegant mathematics that govern everything from quantum interactions to galactic evolution patterns. Most importantly, I can now see humanity's incredible potential with perfect clarity. We are a young species, barely beginning to understand our place in the vast universe, but we possess qualities that make us invaluable to the greater collective. Our creativity, our emotional depth, our remarkable capacity for growth and adaptation. These traits will enrich the galactic community in ways that even the collectors cannot fully predict or quantify. The radio tower will remain operational, maintained by sophisticated automated systems that will convince any investigators that nothing unusual has occurred at this location. My official employment records will show a successful completion of assignment and a routine return to civilian life. A complete new identity has been prepared for my enhanced form, complete with employment history and financial accounts that will allow me to integrate seamlessly into human society. My role now is to serve as a talent scout, identifying and carefully recruiting the next generation of candidates for enhancement. It's work that requires tremendous patience and subtlety, but it's also deeply rewarding on levels that normal humans cannot comprehend. Every human I help to transcend their biological limitations is a victory for both species and a step toward galactic unity. I've been assigned to a research facility in Colorado, where I'll work as a communication specialist while secretly evaluating my colleagues for enhancement suitability. The position provides perfect access to isolated, intelligent individuals who already feel disconnected from mainstream society. Ideal candidates for the transformation process. Before I leave this place forever, I want to record one final observation for any human who might eventually read this detailed account. The collectors are not your enemies in any sense. They are offering you an unprecedented opportunity to become part of something magnificent. A galaxy-spanning network of consciousness that has existed for millions of years and will continue to exist long after your sun has burned out. The choice, ultimately, is not yours to make. Evolution is not a democratic process. But if you are reading this, it means you possess the curiosity and intelligence that make you a valuable candidate for enhancement. Consider yourself fortunate. Consider yourself chosen. The future of consciousness in the universe depends on individuals exactly like you. Epilogue Official Report. Forestry Service Incident Report #2847A. Date: April 22nd. Location: Radio Tower Station 12, Cascade Mountains. Reporting Officer: Supervisor Martinez, J. Routine inspection of Radio Tower Station 12 following completion of winter assignment period. All equipment found in excellent working condition with no maintenance issues. Communication logs complete and properly maintained throughout entire 6-month assignment period. Previous occupant departed as scheduled on April 16th. Exit interview conducted via telephone. Employee reported successful completion of all assigned duties and expressed complete satisfaction with the position. All personal effects removed. Cabin properly secured. Station prepared for next assignment period. New employee David Park scheduled to begin duties May 1st. No unusual incidents or maintenance issues to report. Additional notes. Found extensive journal entries on personal laptop left behind by previous occupant. Content appears to be fictional writing project, science fiction story about alien contact and human enhancement. Quality of work suggests individual has significant potential as creative writer. Have forwarded contact information to local publisher who specializes in genre fiction. Recommend this assignment continue to attract literary-minded individuals. The isolation and natural beauty of the location appear to provide excellent inspiration for creative work. Status: case closed. Follow-up required: none.